This conference will now be recorded.
Today we'll just close the Linux part and we'll proceed further for Git. Play with Docker is in a website where you get some free virtual machines for practicing the basic Linux commands, any sort of shell script which you want to practice instead of um, you know launching the AWS EC2 instance, which will cost. If you want to practice any sort of a basic commands, better do with playwithdocker.com. You might feel some network issues since I'm in my hometown. I think better I will explain this later. And for this, we need to create a Docker account. Please get it created a Docker account. So it is mandatory for even in a Docker session. So now let's start with some of the basic commands again. So any command, if at all we want to execute or something, you're looking for any options of
What is
adjusting,
ls
or
minus
we can go with a
lrth?
man. Like, so H is something sort of a human readable format. Uh, if you see only ls-lrta, it will just list out the file size isn't something which is not readable. We don't know what is this 15190, and to make it a clear human readable format like a 3.3 KB,
Okay.
256 bytes of data.
Okay, it's like we can't read those files.
Yes, most of the situations in commands, H will be a human readable format.
Okay.
So yeah, and
Okay.
uh, if we were not sure what are the options we need to for just imagine for even ls, and we are not sure some of the options, we can use a man command. So man is a default utility for any Linux operating system or Unix based system. So to just list out the what are the options for that particular command. It is sort of a manual. We can see the all the description about the command and what are the parameters that we can pass it to. So these are many parameters which we have are arguments for a single command. Based on our need, we just need to go and look for a particular attribute. So in this case, for a basic commands, we will be habituated to do with like for example ls-lrta. We'll proceed almost most of the situations with the same command for ls with the same options lrta. But for other commands, if you are not sure, so we need to check with a manual man the command. It will just list out what are the mandatory parameters and what are the optional parameters. So and these and all the are the options that we can use. So let me just list out some error codes which we have or last exited status. And anytime you want to get any command, whether the previous command is executed or not, by using with a last executed statement status code. In this case, I have dollar question mark which I have used to see the previously executed command whether it was successful or not. And if you see there, dollar question mark earlier it was shown 0 because the clear command was executed successfully. And whenever you are writing a cell, could you please start? I think Bhavya. Yeah. So to see the particular command output, whether that was successful or not, we can use the dollar question mark, which is most of the times in a shell script or even on a command line, which we used to do for the previous executed command. What are the scenarios if you want to depend on one command whether this particular command is installed or not? For example, in my shell script, I'm going to install a new package or I'm going to run a particular command. And if the command was failed, so it will execute the sequential steps. And if you want to control those, so I'm installing a Python module or a Python software and followed by JDK. And these both are interrelated. And what if a Python package command was failed? The status was failed, and still shell script will try to execute the following command to control it. No, I want only this command to be executed when the previous executed statement was successful. Then I'm proceeding. If dollar question mark is equals to 0, then only I need to install a apt-jdk. So then once it is a failed, it won't execute apt-jdk. It won't install any JDK for my requirement. It has to install only my particular previous command was executed. So most of the situations This is the purpose of dollar question mark. There are some more exit codes like $1. So dollar question mark, now it has given a 1. Basically, most of the times we see the error codes 0 and 1. And if we given any wrong command, that will give around 127. Now if you see there, 127 was there because I have used a random word which is not even recognized by our shell. So here, if you see the particular test command, if you want to test anything like conditional statements or if else statements directly from the terminal, we can right away test it. Now I've given a 10 is greater than 55 and then followed by echo dollar. I'm just echoing dollar question mark. What I exactly mean by this? And if you see here, semicolon was there. So if you want to execute a command in a command line, one after another, I can do this same thing with the 2 lines of a code, and the same we can achieve with a single line of a code. And like this, you can write as many statements as you can. So for the first statement, it has given me, I have printed out what is the what was the exit status. This is a 1. Why that is a 1? That is the result. If you see test 10 is greater than 55, since it is not a greater than 55, it has given me 1. That is a failed case statement or a failed case result. And if it is a 10 is equals to 10, it will give a 0 since it is executed successfully, since it is a correct statement. And then followed by I'm displaying some random content. Since I haven't closed double quotes, it has given me directly there. So it is taking some random characters. Now I have utilized 10 is equals to 10, the condition. Now since it is passed, the result it is showing 0. the previous executed command status, and the echo is now just displayed whatever the word or a context or a string which I am trying to print, and then followed by ls. So there is a difference, as we can see directly. Instead of executing one by one, and instead of executing the command by command in a sequential way, we can utilize the semicolon, sorry, colon, yeah, sorry, it is semicolon, for appending the commands one by one. In other way, there is another option as well, and or operators. Even it will do the same thing, it will execute, but what it will do, it will try to execute the both, and it's like a comparison operator. If you see only for these two statements, the first one, I'm testing 10 is equals to 10. Yes, it is a correct, and echo, I'm printing the exit status, and it is showing exit status is a 0 because the 10 is equals to 10. And now this case 10 is equals to 15. Since it is a false, it should display 1, right? But this case we haven't received any output for this particular exit status command. Why it was not shown you? Because it will display, it will execute the second command only if the first command is successful. And operator indicates it has to successful in both cases. Here we are using OR operator. Double pipes, that is a pipe symbol. So double pipes which we use for OR operator to just if you want to execute if A equals to B or B equals to C, or there are situations if my IP address is consisting of this particular number or with some other number, or we can use any number of OR operators, but it will take only one situation, like the number of pipe operators no matter when it comes to for checking this one or a particular one. OR operator will always look for any um, one successful condition, and when it comes to AND operator, it will look for every condition has to be successful. Like we have seen there, if we give a 3 commands there, now through the command line it is Yeah, why it was not taking the arguments? If you see, it is throwing an error, too many arguments. Because for the same test condition, I'm passing one parameter. Just imagine this condition together a single parameter, and this is another parameter. But whenever we are using a logical operators and or equals to or greater than, so in these situations we are comparing or we are just giving information to the compiler or interpreter, whatever the shell which we have, bash or gdsh. Hey, this is my command, and this command has to be executed first and then followed by the next command should be executed. If this particular one is successful, then only it will execute. But here I'm not passing any as such a command. That's why it is taking as a parameters, and the compiler is considering double end and 5 is equals to 5 is also a parameter, but in reality it won't support any double end and 5 is equals to 5. That's why it was throwing too many arguments. My test command is treating double end and 5 and equals to 5 is also an another command, sorry, also an argument, but it is not an argument, but our intention is it is an another command to just want to compare it. So likewise we can use or and is equals to eq like we have shown above, and greater than zt, less than lt. So these are some basic commands about comparing operators or comparing any strings. And we'll just discuss about how we can check the process, running process if you're running any servers inside our machines. So I have downloaded a single package, Apache Tomcat. Oh, here is my .gz file which I was downloaded. Apache Tomcat is an web or application server where we can deploy our applications. We have to do the continuous integration and continuous delivery, right? So when developer has taken any new code and we need to build it and we need to package it, then we have to deploy in somewhere in lower environments or even into the production environment. Either it is a Docker image or either it is a regular monolithic or the microservice without a Docker. We have to deploy into the target environments. I'm just imagining that we have a Tomcat is a server which I'm going to deploy. It is not finding the download since I have used the slash there. Slash will look for the root folder, this one. So here I don't have any downloads folder. So I have extracted the Apache Tomcat. Now I'm just listing out what's there. And there is a web apps folder to deploy our application, but this will be explained in later sessions. I'm just giving how we can utilize some how to check the running process. Web apps is a deployment folder for Tomcat where we can deploy our WAR files. there is an application which was already deployed earlier. I'm just removing the existing application. Sample.var is my project or a product. Here now there is no sample.var here. Let me just come back to one directory back, and this is a folder structure for a Tomcat server. We can see a temp folder and a library folder and a binaries, and followed by work, configurations, logs, web apps. So typically in web apps, we deploy our application. Whenever we deploy our application, once we start the server, it will generate some logs. So logs will be stored in this logs folder. The configurations. This configuration is something you want to run your Tomcat application with some configurations like SSL certificates or like providing a port number. No, I want my Tomcat to be up and running on this particular port only, or any user related configurations or application related configurations we can maintain there. So web related settings and server settings. This is where we can maintain the port numbers. I'm just printing what's there inside. So I'm just checking. Pipe is always we can use. There are situations you might be in a confusion. We have used a colon, semicolon, and double end operator to to run two commands in a terminal. So and now we are using a pipe command. What exactly it will do? It will just take this as an input. Pipe is something. I the output of the command 1 will be input for command 2. Whenever you are in a situation you have got a lot of result, and out of that result and you want to process only some particular portion of a thing, and if I say I've used single command cat server.xml, and it is displaying the lot of content. I mean, if my particular file is having 2000 lines of a code or a 3000 lines of a code, and anytime I don't want to see all of that, and instead I have some particular string, I want to look for that particular string. So now I just verified with I want only the string with auth or a line with auth. So it will display out of my 2000 or 3000 lines the line which is consisting of auth. Pipe is not used for using a grep. Pipe is something if you want to process a command 1 result and give it to the second command. So that is the purpose of a pipe, not for just grepping or not for just looking for this result only for auth or something. So we can use uh, any other command based on our necessity. Most of the time, people used to do the grep from the command 1 output. So this case, I have verified with the auth, and I have verified with the port number on which port it is running. Now in a Tomcat folder, we have another things like configurations, logs, and web apps, work related. So this space will be used by Catalina. Catalina is something, uh, it is a part of Apache server. So when we are replicating or running multiple instances from the same server, it will use that as a workspace. The work and the temporary location it will utilize for the server running workspace.
These are basic some libraries for running or utilizing any application. Since it is not installed in a system level, all the configurations and the libraries for this particular software, I mean for Apache Tomcat, if I install this Apache Tomcat server with the help of apt-get, it will install in somewhere in a random locations. That's where I have downloaded a binary and I have extracted it here. Now I'm running my server. How we can start a server? If we have downloaded any package, not only Tomcat, and yesterday I've shown you, or day before yesterday, we have downloaded a JDK, and any package which we are downloading in the form of a binaries, it should contain a bin folder. What exactly the bin folder? As we discussed, with Java, it is installed in my user bin location, but in a physical location slash bin it was installed, since it is an a link which was created. And typically for user bin Java. Likewise, this is a system command. Like since I have installed my Java in a global level or global user path, I can see that particular command was installed on a bin. But this case, how do I specify my terminal to run this particular Tomcat server? Since this is just in a binary and I want to run this binary through the command line. So for any software, it has a binaries to run it. In a bin folder of a Tomcat, we have a bootstrap jars and many things, the dependency jars and the commands which are for multiple operating systems. Like this is a BAT for Windows based operating systems, and for Linux based operating systems we have a .sh files, shell script. I'm just listing what is there. It is a pure shell script. This line we call it as a shebang line. Any shell script, if you see in industry automated standard, they follow the shebang line. What exactly the shebang line and all, and we'll discuss that. And now for starting the Tomcat server, there should be startup.sh, and to shut down your Tomcat server, shutdown.sh command, we can use this script to start the Tomcat server. Let's see what's there in that startup.sh. Same shell script is starting with the shebang line. We can specify any shell here. So what exactly meant by shebang line? We are enforcing my particular shell script to run on this particular bash shell, or something to run on particular shell, or you want to run. There are situations where there are some operating systems, DOS, they used to run earlier on a KSH or SH. Nowadays everybody using a bash, and we are specifying bin bash as our regular standard. And for older operating systems or legacy one, or there are many like HPX, so they are using sometimes KSH. That's where I'm enforcing my script to use this particular shell as an interpreter. And without adding the shebang line also, we can run the shell script. But if you want to enforce it to run it on only shell, because there are situations we might have to dependent on a shell level. In general, for a DevOps engineers, while writing any sort of automation shell scripts, we don't need to be dependent on not major situations. 99% of the time, we don't need to be dependent on either bash script or a KSH or any other shell which we have. Now, two types of enforcing: script to run on particular shell. One is with the help of writing inside my file. Shellscript.sh is my shell script, for example. Then the file which starts with shebang line.
Rajendra, can you spell it shebang?
Yeah, I'm just typing. So we are telling the compiler or not a compiler. We are telling the interpreter to use or to run my script only with the help of bash. Imagine I haven't installed a bash. Example, let me instead of a bash or SSH, SH, I'm using some random character there. I'm running my script, and since it is a new file, I've created a new shell script file in my file system. By default, when you create a file, a shell script, it doesn't have a execute permissions. So to run any shell script, we need execute permissions on any machine. So that's where even in our scripts, we used to, once our shell script is copied to the remote machine, to if you want to execute any scripts, we have to change the permissions to the right, to the execute. Chmod, it is changing the permissions of the file, or even we can change the permissions of a directory with a chmod. +X, I'm giving execute permissions. So now I got execute permissions for my user. And it is showing no such file or directory. That means we don't have a RAH shell which is installed in my machine. This is a VI terminal, as I have explained earlier. To edit our files, let me check whether KSH is installed or not. To insert anything inside our VI editor, we should have something like once you enter, now you're in a terminal and you can create a new file test.sh, and once you are inside that, you have to press I. Since it is a command line tool, we need to specify everything, whether you are in a reading mode or writing mode. So when you press I, it will enter into insert mode. By default, I'm typing something here randomly, but it is not taking. And I need to press enter. In the bottom of the screen, you can see insert. So it will enable an user interface for me to write or give an input to my script. Now I can use all the any commands which I want to execute, or the content which I want to insert into this particular file. And now you want to save the file. Escape. Press escape. Once it is done, we need to press colon, and then followed by WQ. It will save the file. And anytime if you don't want to see, now the content is still the same, I'm just giving some random, and then I realize that I don't want save this particular file. I'm just coming out, escape, colon, Q, exclamatory. So it is not saving. It won't save our content which I've typed randomly. Let's see what's there in that. So it wasn't taken any the random text which I have typed. After colon, we have to press WQ to save the file and exit. By default, it will exit. Save and exit from the terminal, from the VA editor. If you want to exit without saving, so this is how we need to use command line terminal. Now coming back to our shebang line. So earlier it was failing since there is no such file or a directory over there. And now in bin bash location, if you want to run any shell script, we have two ways. One is directly. Shell script is nothing but a grouping or regular commands. Now, if you see, nothing new I have used inside my shell script file, echo command, and the same echo command we are using indirectly in our terminal also. So grouping, to achieve some particular task, we need to use n number of commands. So grouping them all n number of commands inside a file, we can call it as a shell script. It is not a oops concept or something. It is just running a sequential steps of our commands.
Rajendra, it was asked for RAH, right? Then you are telling for KSH.
Yeah, I just given an example of by giving RAH, just that is a random string I have used, random word. Now
Okay.
earlier with RAH it was failed. Now I have modified to KSH. KSH also, as I mentioned, it is a shell. Bash, KSH are born again shell. Born again shell and KSH. POSIX earlier for Unix based Unix original Unix operating systems. So these are cell types, and now I have given RAH as a shell type. Since there is no shell type which was installed with RAH, it was failed. For random string, I've shown you for failure case how it will look for in a shebang line. And let me run this. Now this case I'm getting a result. I given a wrong shebang line syntax. If you give any syntax error, if you forgot to follow some syntax errors, not a syntax errors, syntaxes for any command, it will throw the syntax errors with the line numbers so that you can troubleshoot it while executing it.
So here the first line is the shebang line.
Yes,
Without
and
this, if you give any command, it won't work.
it will work. The next command, the next thing, if you see here, two types of enforcing script to run on a particular shell. So one is with a shebang line, and another one is without a shebang line. What if I don't give any shebang line inside my script? I'm changing my file permissions. So try to use a tab most of the times so that you will be habituated while practicing. So instead of typing hold the file name and redirect while redirecting to the different locations, we should be most aware of which folder we are in.
For this shell script, previously you have given read permissions. I mean execute
No,
permissions.
plus x. Yes, plus x I have given. Now for this also I have given a plus x. I'm running
So
this script now.
under shell script, you are creating two files, right?
No, we cannot create a file inside a file, right?
Again, why you are
Yes,
giving
yes, yes. Okay, okay,
execute
okay. You're talking
permission?
about a folder, right? Yes. Under shell script folder, I created three files and one folder. I'm in a training folder of my user workspace. Under my user, there is a training folder, and inside that I have created a shell script folder. So these are the files: shebang, without shebang, echo.sh. Fun is a folder. We can see there.
Okay.
So here I'm trying to run a shell script which is a without shebang. It is throwing an error. without shebang line. So my shell is looking for a shebang line here, but still I can execute it. Okay, that's random. Yeah, sorry, it's not an error. Uh, the message which I have given inside that with our shebang. So what exactly meant by that? To run my shell script, I have just passed in a command without shebang dot slash dot is a current directory slash the file name. So please I'm telling my terminal, please execute this particular file which is there in my current directory. Current directory is a dot and followed by the slash the file name. Now it has executed. How it has executed? Echo by default, our terminal is having some shell. In this case, I have a GSH which is installed. It was utilizing this particular GSH to run this particular script. I can use somewhere bash. Even with a bash script, bash shell, I can run my particular file. I'm enforcing through the command line. While running my particular shell script, I'm enforcing to use the bash shell. And earlier, by default, it was using ZSH. And now, when I was entered with a shebang, it was using KSH. This is how the types of enforcing my script to use a particular shell. And likewise, if you see there in a previous Apache folder, they were enforcing through the script because they used to provide the script to the multiple random users, not only for me. That is just deployed in their website. We can anybody can download it for their Windows machine or for their Linux or CentOS or Ubuntu, whatever the distribution for their Mac. Now I've downloaded the binary for my Mac and they are enforcing me to use shell. And if they provided something random KSH which is not installed on my machine, I need to comment this line or else I have to install KSH in my machine. Most of the situations, the Linux distributions by default it will come up with KSH, bash, sh. These three things. These three shells are mandatory. And now we have discussed about types of enforcing our script to run either on which shell.
Rajan,
Yeah, please.
for giving permissions, you have given plus X, right? In the similar way, we can give plus R for read, plus W for write. Can we give
Yes.
like that, or else is there any UI
Exactly,
kind of?
exactly we can give. I'm just showing some limited options only.
Okay.
Man ch mode. With the help of a plus symbol, we can give read, write and execute permissions and a read permissions.
And for a directory also we will be having permissions, right? For that
Yes,
you have given some chmod 777 for giving all permissions to the red directory.
and for the directory, now we have a shell script directory. I haven't
Okay.
given any permissions. By default, when we create a folder or a file, this case EOUCH,
No, actually, when I try to download some website with curl command, it is throwing some error. Have you remember on that day you also got some errors?
Yeah, we have got an error and we have given, and the error was something related to it is looking for output file format, and then I
Okay.
have given what would be my file name. So I need to choose the file name. That's why I've given hyphen output followed by the name of the file which I'm going to download into my local. So in this case, I've given I've just created a sample.txt file. For that also, it doesn't have any execute permissions since it is just a text file or a txt file or any some random. We don't need to be execute permissions since we are not executing this. Let's say imagine it is in a property file. We don't need to be or execute permissions. So for the scripts which we are executing, either shell script or any sort of a script, it needs an execute permissions. By default folder is having a execute permissions. That's why I haven't provided any separate permissions to my parent folder. Inside that we have a scripts. So running shell script and operating via editor. Now we have completed these things. Let me start the Tomcat. Now I'm in a bin folder of a Tomcat. I'm going to start Catalina shutdown or Catalina.sh startup.sh. Now my Tomcat has started. If you remember, I have shown you about the server.xml cat config folder. What happened? My Tomcat is listening on 8080 HTTP protocol. So if you want to access my Tomcat, I need to go to the 8080. Why I'm giving a local host? Because this particular Tomcat is running on my local machine. Since my machine doesn't have any static IP, like when we launch AWS EC2 machine, we used to get one private address and a public IP address. With the help of public IP address, when you start the Tomcat server inside of your EC2 instance, you will see public IP address colon 8080 port. On 8080 port, your application is up and running. My application is a Tomcat. So let me just stop my server. I'm in a bin folder. I have a scripts to start and stop the server. I'm just listing down. And for shutting down my server, we have a script dot forward slash followed by the script name. I'm executing that. Now the server is not running since I have stopped the server with the help of their provided scripts. Now I'm starting again. Before that, let me just list out, do we have any process which is running with Tomcat name? ps-ef is a command to look for the processes which are running inside our machine. If you want to troubleshoot it, let's say your service is running up and running till the time before 5 minutes, and users are reporting that a particular microservice is not working. And in this scenario, whether you will go for checking the logs immediately or checking the alerts or something, you can directly log into the machine. You can look for whether my Tomcat server is up and running or not. So there is no process with the name Tomcat which is running. Here, the command which I have executed, for every command or every action which we do on a Linux, it will create a simple process or a simple thread. I'm just removing grep. Now we can see ps-ef. It is listing down many processes which are running inside my MacBook. There are many, and out of many, I want only the processes which are running on Java. Currently, there is no process which is running with Java, since I haven't installed any applications or I'm not running any servers which are Java based. And now let me start the script. Let me start the server again. Now I have started the Tomcat. So this means a Tomcat has started, and sometimes in a real time we might be encountered something. I have deployed my application, a login service or any such service, and whenever I try to start up my Tomcat, it is throwing some random issue. Some A Tomcat will start obviously, but unless we have a port is not opened or port is occupied for some other process, Tomcat definitely will start. And you want to look for a log whether my application is up and running, and if there are any warnings or errors inside my application. So that we will verify that later. And before that, let's check whether my server is up and running. And from the UI, it is up and running. And how do we know that whether my process is running or not? So this is the first process. This is the process ID, and this is a group. And here you see that my particular Tomcat is using library Java Virtual Machine JDK 17.02. So in my machine, I have installed 17.02 JDK. To run a Tomcat, Tomcat utilizes Java, and here we can see the Java utils configurations. Everything was mentioned inside our config file. The config file which I have shown you about how to check the port numbers and what is authentication and where is the location of my Tomcat, conf folder, logging.properties, and -d is the parameters which are passing to the Java process. These things are some basics, like whenever we are starting an application and we need to check whether it is up and running or not, and it is utilizing some binaries inside that /bin/julie.tomcat. It is inside my downloads Apache Tomcat. It is just a parameters it is passing. It is pointing to bootstrap.java. So anyway, it is just a file locations, and let me just check whether my server is up and running. It is clearly showing in a processes. My Tomcat is up and running. This particular first process, bootstrap start, and we have stopped the server with the help of shutdown.sh. But this case, we can kill the process also. Kill is a command to stop any running process. And there are scenarios where you have to kill the process instead of going to this particular shutdown.sh shell script. For starting any kind of a script or any kind of a server, we might need to go to the particular location, or we can set up an environmental variable to run from any location. Like we have set up for Java, and we are running from the command line. Somewhere it was set up, but we are running from the command line from anywhere, any folder. So if you want to, what is the environmental variable basically? So if you want to run a command or a script, anything from the command line, from the terminal, from anywhere, we need to set up a path. By default, a system path is looking for user local bin and colon user bin, and these are our default paths. And these locations, our command, whatever we are typing on our terminal, it should be there in slash bin folder or user bin folder or a bin folder somewhere. And if you want to add your custom path, like in my case, Apache Tomcat, I can add it to directly. One second. So if you want to run it from the global level, we can add it to the system path, and it will anywhere in your machine. You can start the Tomcat and stop the Tomcat. So in this case, I don't want to run the script to stop the Tomcat, which is shutdown.sh. So rather what I will do, I will just look for the process of my Tomcat. Now I'm searching with Java. Even we can search with Tomcat. ps-ef with the name of service.
So based on the that group ID, you are going to kill the session.
Not a group ID, a
PID.
PID. So
So
in a
503
Linux,
is the PID
everything,
here.
no, a 21098 is a PID. So in
Okay.
general, any process, maybe yeah, 503 is a PID. So in general, every process or a command which we are executing on the Linux machine, it will create a process ID. And with that process ID, we can kill the machine, or we can kill the, not a machine, we can kill the service. ps-ef, it is throwing some 503 is a group ID, and this is the process ID, and these are many services which are running. We can kill all
Which
of
one
the
is the
services.
process
If you
ID
see
here?
94676 is a process ID, and this is a group ID. And now here my inside my applications, my Google Chrome app is running. If I use a kill option here, it will kill my running Google Chrome. Let me check a Safari is there. Maybe it is running with a different name. Now I'm looking for a Tomcat or running Tomcat server. Let me kill this. 21098 is our Tomcat process ID, PID. With the process ID, I'm killing. 9 is a signal to kill forcefully. If something it is using, and if it has any child processes, it will kill all of them in a recursive manner. Why we need to kill the child process and all, that is a different topic. I mean, if you don't if you won't kill the child processes, it will occupy the memory or heap memory or a RAM or system resources. and let me refresh the page. Now my Tomcat server was stopped. And even not only for a Tomcat, if any process which is running inside your machine, you want to kill it, and then you can utilize this kill option, kill hyphen 9. 9 is a signal number. For kill, there are many signals.
Rajendra, can we
Mostly in a
create
day-to-day life. Yep.
can we create our own commands to start and stop? For example, in the bin folder, we are having some predefined startup.sh, shutdown.sh.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
like that, if you want to know status of it, status of this Tomcat server, whether it is in shutdown mode or startup mode, from a simple command, can we know that simply by giving status dot this Tomcat?
So yeah, we can know that because now in this situation, because we don't know why. If I let's say I'm not running my Tomcat server as a service in Linux, we should know the status of any running service which was running with the help of service. But we are running our Tomcat with binaries. I haven't created any service yet to this particular Tomcat.
Okay,
Let's
only
say
for
what I
service
exactly
we can
meant by
know the
that.
state.
Yes. For example, brew install httpd sorry, http not sure whether it will install in my machine. Let me give it a try. So httpd is a service which will run behind, not like in a Tomcat. To check the
So
status, we can use that.
just like apt and em, it is brew in Tomcat.
Yeah, this is for my machine, and
Okay.
it is asking me to change the permissions. Anyway, while installing httpd and while configuring the Jenkins and the the later sessions, while dealing with Ansible, we'll see that particular service. And whenever we are running our application in the form of a service, what I exactly mean by that? Now we have a binaries which are running through the command line. Now I have extracted, and then I will start the server with shell script. That means this script is running behind. Once this script is killed, it is getting stopped. But there are situations where we can create this particular Tomcat as a service. For that, we need to add this. Um, Let me just go and show you the startup dot. One second. So it is running again Catalina.sh. Oh yeah. So if you see earlier when we start the Tomcat server, it was utilizing -d the properties, and we are talking about the service. So for run Java is an a Java path. They are providing logging managers and Java OPTs, followed by all the input parameter. I mean directory locations and all. Somewhere we can see the jar file. So a class path location they have given a bin bootstrap.jar. So this particular jars are triggering or when we are running the startup.sh file, it is calling the jar files via Java process. So that means we need to enable all these running services like a java-jar followed by this particular bootstrap.jar. So these processes are particular startup.sh file. We have to create a service to run always behind as a daemon process. Now I am running my Tomcat server through the script. When we shut down my script, shut down my machine and reboot my machine, there is no guarantee that this particular script is running since it is just a shell script. And if I create my shell script to run as a service, definitely we can see the status of the service. Like for CentOS or Red Hat, there is a command systemctl Apache status or something. If we have configured our custom service, in this case Tomcat 9 I have created, we can see the status of this and the installation of Apache D, HTTP server. All these things will be explained in the later sessions, and we can see the status also on the go. So this is how we can check anytime our process is running or not, and if you want to kill our process with the help of a process ID. And if you see there, the process ID for the same command, which is differing every time. Now I've used the ps-ef grep tomcat. The process ID was 23136. Then later second time 23144, and this time 23164. So it is varying randomly because this particular the command which I'm executing, for this also it is getting created a single process, and the process is getting exited once my command is over. If it is not exited, it will create 3 to 4 processes and it will list out all of them. Since it is a command, once my command is executed, my process will terminate the process ID by default. And earlier it was not terminated by default because we are running a Tomcat server, and if you want to kill the particular process, that should be done via manual actions, not like it operating system doesn't kill any running processes by default unless you specify it. So we have gone through some grep command, and there are some other commands as well for finding files inside our directory, or if you want to edit our source, I mean the content inside the file. Just give me a minute. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I got a call. So I'm just going back. Now I can see. Now I'm in a Apache Tomcat folder. So now we will discuss about a find command. And as you know, grep is something if you want to search for some context or some text inside any file or inside. Mostly we are using the grep for just to check the previous command output or just to filter previous command output. And what if you want to look for a particular string inside your file system or inside your files? Let me just look out what is there in my echo. So I have a sample shell script inside my echo. I have just declared a variable and I have assigned a value for that and I'm just printing there. So I want to look for a text is echo. So I'm gripping out for an echo inside this particular file. So we can achieve this in a two ways. I can concatenate and with the result I can list out what is there inside that. This is the same result. If I do cat and then followed by pipe symbol and then grep, instead of using a both, I can get a particular, I can achieve the same with a grep. Grep a string which I want to search and then followed by the file name. And what if you have multiple directories and multiple folders inside that, and we can achieve that. That's what it is looking for. Earlier in a previous command, I have given grep echo. I haven't given any file name. I just mentioned dot in my current directory. Look for echo in any of the file. In Windows, we can search only file names or something like if you want to look for your resume or some PDF files. What you will do, you will just search for a particular file in your file explorer. But here with the command, you can search throughout our file system. Search in Linux is very fast than Windows. So if you want to look for a multiple folders and file locations, we have to mention recursively. So what exactly it is doing? It is just listing out a result of echo of files. These are file names, and it is looking for echo inside those files, and it has given very quick result. I have echo in my without shebang line .sh file and fun file. There is fun file also inside my fun folder. I have created a fun file inside my fun folder. Not only and one more thing about a shell script, we can save our file not only with a shell script .sh. We can save anything. We can just keep it as empty, or we can keep it as a .sh or just a file. Fun is in a file inside my fun directory. So it is just a file, and we can execute this a particular fun file even without it is having an extension. If you see in real time, not real time, in general for other programming languages, if you want to execute a Java file, the file name extension should be start or ends with a .java. or C sharp, it should be end with a CS file, or Python, it should end with a .py. So not with a shell script, you can name it any format. Since we are enforcing inside that particular file, hey, this is my shebang line. You need to execute these particular below commands or sequential commands in the form of shell, so that it knows how to execute that. So we don't need to be, particular about what is the extension of this particular file. So extension can be anything, but for best practices and naming conventions, we follow .sh. Yeah, this is a use of a grep to list out any files which are consisting of a particular command. And anytime you want to list a port number or something, the job names which are there in the config files with the specific words, you can just list out, okay, these are all the files I need to modify. I need to go and delete, or if you want to delete the particular files with the names is having an echo. So this is something narrowing our result of a search result. So and we have another command, find. Man grep we have already seen. So these are many options for primaries. So okay, b never, b time, modified time, a time. Now I'm in a shell script folder, or let me go to some other folder which is having more folder structures. So I just want to find out. Now this case, I know the string and I just want to, the previous case in a grep, while I'm using a grep, I know the what is a string, and based on a string name inside my files, I want to list out all the files which is having some particular string for a grep. And now this case, you don't want the string, and but you want a particular file name or something. You want a file name which is having some extension. Now this case, let me just list out all the shell script which is there in my subfolders. Imagine we cannot achieve that with the help of grep. If I give .sh there, it won't give any result because it has given a wrong information. My intention was I want a folders which extends with, or which will the postfix will be .sh, the extension will be in my current directory, but it is showing a file names which is consisting of sh. But I don't want that result, but I want a file names which is having some particular name. Find is a command to find any file names or any files inside our file system, wherever it is in. And if your user is having a permissions to look for overall, one second, you might hear some disturbance. Yeah. So to look for in a file inside our file system, we use a find. The syntax would be find. In general, if you think find where we need to find, let's say now this case current directory, what I need to look for, name of a file and shutdown.sh. I don't want to give shutdown. I will just give shutdown. Let's see. So I have nothing in my result. So there is no matching also. It is showing. So it is looking for a case sensitive. That means if you provide a file name completely, then only it is looking for a particular format file. And we can achieve the same, not the same. If you want to, one day you might have in a situation you need to list out what are the files. Sorry guys, 1 second. Oh yeah, sorry. So finding out with the file names, there is a bat file also in the same location. And if you want to look for a file with the help of a particular time period, and you might be seeing these kind of situations where we need to remove or restore the file systems where a 60 days older to to provide a backup and a restore policies. There might be a situation where we have to dependent on to save the data or a storage. We have to remove the older artifacts which are less than or which are greater than 60 days old. And to achieve that, there are many options in a find. Type is a file, and somewhere m time, I think. Modified time something. So I'm just looking for a man command for a help. Minutes also we can search, hours we can search. See time. If you see this m time, the modified time between the file last modified time and the time find was started, and last 24 hours anytime if we don't find out, usually we don't remember all the commands and their options. We just remember the most of the commands which we use in our day-to-day activities. Find hyphen m time, and we can give, let me give some random value. So it is just displaying based on a time in a reverse manner. Let me just give a in reverse way. -2 option. Last 1 hour or 2 hours. So even we can segregate with the help of minutes and seconds. I have many folders in my downloads. And we see only these particular folders and files which I have accessed in the past 1 hour. Since this case I have used all of them in this session, it is showing every file. Now this case I have many things inside my many files and folders inside our downloads. But out of this, I want only the files which are modified or accessed only in the last couple of minutes. So this is how we can use a find. And one more thing about while starting the Tomcat server, I forgot to explain about how we can see the logs there. See, my server is started now, and I want to look for a logs whether my server is up and running and how it is generating my logs. I'm in a Tomcat home folder now. This is where I have extracted. And you want to look for a logs. By default, it will generate the logs in catalina.out folder, out file. This is not a folder. And we know, right, many ways to see the content inside of any file. So I've typed Catalina, then tab, and it is just waiting at the dot because we have a 3 files with the name Catalina. So now I selected only catalina.out, and this is a log file. Actually it has a you can see more than 200-300 lines of logs it was generated, but in real time it will generate around thousands of lines of a code, 1,000 lines of log files, and out of that you want to look for only the latest running logs. There is an option tile. Tile is mostly we use for just, let me just maximize. Yeah, tile we use only to just see the logs of a particular file or a particular service which is running. Not only the service, not exactly the service actually. So the service log or application log or a server log. So any server which is running our machine, we can check the logs of a file or of logs of the process with the help of where that particular process is generating the logs. In my case, Tomcat is generating logs inside this particular catalina.out file. and we can see the logs of that with the help of a cat. Cat, it will display 2000 or 3000 or 10,000 of lines of a code in a same screen. But you don't want that. Rather, what we can do, we can depend on tail-f. It will just list out all the running things 686, 10, 15, 47. When last it was started, the server, and after that I don't have any actions which I am doing in my server. Manage app. For manage app, we need a default username and password for a Tomcat. Since I haven't set up any authorization, this is just a default server which I have installed. And
Rajendra,
let me just come out of this tile.
inside this log, if we want to search for any particular number, I mean, with particular string, we can use find and we can give find command and then that string name.
No, why we can use a find? Find is something we are using only for searching the file names. We have a grep, right,
Okay.
to search
Okay.
strings inside of any file. Now this case, um, I want to grep out what is there inside my Catalina, or let's say number JDK. Now we can see the result of those lines which are there, which is there with JDK or something. Let me check for warnings. There is no warning. Error.
Yeah. Got your
So
point.
there is no
Yes.
error since my application is up and running properly, and I haven't hosted any web application inside that. So since there is no errors or warnings inside my log file, it is showing nothing. And find is always we use for just finding the file names inside our file system. We may have 1,000 number of files, or just imagine we have a Jenkins jobs of around 30 to 40, and on each and every Jenkins, um, you want to list out a sub particular files, and we can use a find there or something. The last, most of the situations we use the last modified or something in now in my server, whether this particular file is existed or not, or particular folder is existed or not. In that situation, I use a find. And for grep, typically for searching a particular string inside the file. So the file can be a single file, or a file can be a nested files. Like if you have a nested directories or parent and child directories, and inside that there are many files and folders. And out of 100 to 200 folders and files, you want to get only the files which are having a particular string. We can use a grep. That's what we just verified, that the file is files which are having .sh. It is showing that with the help of .sh or something only sh. So inside of any file, it will just list out. And yeah, coming to the tail we use for just to see the running logs of my application, not hold the content. So I want only the what is happening inside my server. Right now, it is just a simple server. I don't have any application which is hosted inside my server. Imagine for any other running web application like a Flipkart or Walmart or something. They have their own microservices for each and every feature. For all the microservices, and at any fraction of time, they will generate a logs, and any action which we are performing here from our machine, it it will generate a logs inside this particular catalina.out file. But they use a different naming conventions. Every organization use the log file naming convention with the application name. Now it is a Tomcat. Catalina.out. I can rename this Catalina.out to something. This particular Apache Tomcat I'm using for deploying my login service or deploying my display service or a front-end service. I can name it the log file also with a respective service, so that we can change it in a Catalina, not sorry, it is a server.sh file. Let me just go to that Catalina.out. In configuration folder of the server, I'm just listing out what is there inside my server.xml. There may be in settings we have to modify. So nothing inside my server.xml. So there is no settings inside our server XML file. Let me just go back to the shell script in startup.sh, cat startup grep for log. So here also it is not pointing to any log. Cat, we have a catalina.sh. And if you see, they were hard coded with logs slash catalina.out. So Catalina out, that means the output of my microservice log has to be stored in logs.catalina.out. We can name it with a different name. Vi catalina.sh. And I was searching for a string uh, inside my VI editor. So how do we search for a particular string inside my VI editor? So once I logged in, I just pressed escape colon. One second, let me just come back. I used the capital Q there. I'm just pressing a question mark there. Escape question mark you can press, or directly question mark you can press. Since it is the first time I just opened a VI editor, I just pressed question mark followed by out. So now we have got one result out. And if you want to look for the next result, we have to press N. So here is my hard coded value. Now I'm saving. My server is still running. So I haven't killed my server. Let me check whether my test log file was generated inside my logs. So there is no test, still a Catalina file, because to reflect it, I need to stop the server. Whenever we are doing any changes in a running server, to get it reflected, we need to restart the service or a server. Right now I'm in a bin folder. Let me just check whether my Tomcat process ID, what is our Tomcat process ID? Now I got a process ID. I've killed my process. Now my process is not running. Startup.sh to start my Tomcat server. My Tomcat has started. And now we can see our test session dot out folder out file which was created just now 10:28. And before that, let me just stop my server and show you how we can deploy our application. I'm just going back. If you remember, when I shown you that the Tomcat installation, not Tomcat installation, in the first session, when session has started, I've just shown you about a sample.war file, which I have copied from web apps to a back. Now I'm just copying that sample.war file again to the web apps. Web apps is a deployment folder where we deploy our application. Sample.war is our application that I'm deploying into my Tomcat. So deploying into Tomcat in the sense we are deploying our application into web apps folder of Tomcat. Let me just list out what is there inside web apps. Now I have copied a sample root file. So now my application was deployed, and let me check whether my process is not running since I have killed earlier. Then again I'm starting my process. To start the process, we have a bin slash startup.sh, and you see, and right now I'm in a Tomcat home folder. Instead of cding into bin folder, I just given an absolute path, and now my server is up and running. I've refreshed, and if you see on a URL context, I've given a sample because I have deployed my application. Let me just show you what is there inside web apps folder. In a web apps folder, I just listed down. It was only sample.war file. There is no additional folder, not additional file. And root folder is a default, docs is a default, example, host manager are default folders. Now let me just list out what is there in web apps folder. Control C. In web apps folder, we have a sample folder created. So whenever we are deploying our application in the form of packaged format, now this case I have packaged my application as a WAR file, and when you start our Tomcat server, it has extracted this particular WAR file into a single folder with the name of same WAR file sample. It has created a folder. That means WAR file got extracted into a file format. Inside that, we have our source code, which is developer has written hello.jsp file and HTML file. It is a static website. That's how we have got this hello world output. This is just a simple hello world application which I have deployed inside my Tomcat server. So my Tomcat server is listening on 8080 port in my local host, and I have deployed my sample application. Likewise, we can deploy not only a sample, different login application and some other applications in the same server. So those can be accessed with the name of server slash the login. If you have multiple applications you want to host in the same a Tomcat server, we can see there. But since I haven't deployed any login application, I cannot see. Now I have only sample application which I have deployed. So this is how the basic the deployment or the basic the Linux commands which we can use. And stream editor, something we will discuss that tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Let me finish it out since it is a simple command. Stream editor generally. Now what we are doing to edit a content inside a file, we are going inside to the file and editing with the help of VI and followed by the file name. So you don't want to do that, and there are situations where you have to so instead of a var1, I just want to update with var1, sorry, with var2. So I don't want to open my file. SCD is a stream editor or a string editor. So where we can edit a particular file content with the name of some filters. Sorry. So sorry, I'm modifying my string. Sorry, it's not a double quote, it's a single quote. What is the string name? The string which I'm going to modify, var1 slash var2 slash. The third option is we have three portions in this particular command. The first one is I'm going to replace it with the help of the source and the target and where I want to update it, whether in a global location or whether in only particular occurrence, first occurrence or second occurrence. See, if we have a var1 in my whole file, I want to update it in a whole file. I can give a global and then followed by which file you want to modify, which file content you want to modify. So now I have modified my var1 variable with var2. So throughout my file, it has modified. But I don't want to modify throughout the file. Rather, I want to modify only the first occurrence. Sorry. Now we can see only the first occurrence of a line it has taken. And if you want to look for, imagine if you have a same string in a single line 2 times or 3 times. So now it has modified only first occurrence of a line in a string. So we will discuss this in detail or whenever a situation comes. So this is some the basics about Linux, and maybe from tomorrow we will discuss about Git for 2 to 3 days, and post that Git we'll start Ansible and a Docker. We'll discuss that about whether we need to start Ansible or we need to start a Docker. And um, let me take a moment to discuss with Bharat whether he want to start AWS for you guys to start practicing on AWS environment for the Linux commands, or since I'm going to start a Git in coming week, not a coming week, by this weekend, we'll close the Git. Yeah, if you have any doubts on today's session, we will discuss that in a